Hello and welcome to SaltWire today for Tuesday, November 29th. I'm your host, Kate Walker. The Houston government is providing funding to post-secondary students to help with the rising cost of living. It was announced today that around 11,000 students who receive Nova Scotia student assistance in the 2022-23 academic year will receive a one-time payment of $550. The government says the grant will not have to be repaid. To be eligible for the $550, you must be a post-secondary student who is a Nova Scotia resident, qualify for and receive Nova Scotia student assistance during the 2022-23 academic year. Students do not have to apply. Those who qualify will see the grant automatically deposited into their bank accounts come January. The missing persons case of Devin Sinclair Marsman has been added to the government's Major Crimes Reward Program. It was announced today that a $150,000 reward is available for anyone with information leading to the arrest and conviction of those who are responsible for the 16-year-old's disappearance. Marsman was reported missing by his family on March 4th of this year. Police say he was last seen on February 24th in the Halifax area, and since that time has not been in contact with anyone. He's described as an African Nova Scotian, about 5 feet tall and 100 pounds, with blue-green eyes and short dark hair. When last seen, he was wearing a hooded sweater and jeans. Cape Islanders steamed out of southwest Nova Scotia harbors early this morning to dump their lobster traps. After a day of delay, it was the opening of the season for the 639 fishing license holders in Lobster Fishing Area 33, which runs roughly from Halifax to Cape Sable Island. And they begin their season with high diesel prices and uncertainty around how a looming global recession will affect the shore price. Meantime, the 980 vessels fishing Lobster Area 34 continue to wait for the winds to back off enough to allow them to head out into boats heavily loaded with traps. SaltWire's Tina Camo has more on the continued delay in Yarmouth after the weather has once again halted the start of the commercial lobster fishery season.
As has been the case in recent years, the weather has delayed the start of the commercial lobster fishery in southwestern Nova Scotia once again. The season is always scheduled to begin, weather permitting, on the last Monday of November. But instead, boats stayed tied up in their ports on Monday, November 28th, as a gale warning was in effect. There is a DFO protocol in place that automatically postpones the start of the season if winds are forecasted to be above 25 knots. The LFA 33 season, which runs along the south shore of the province, decided it was going with a Tuesday, November 29th opening. But as of Monday, it was unknown when the season in LFA 34 would open. LFA 33 sees more vessels fishing closer to shore, whereas in LFA 34 off southwestern Nova Scotia, many boats fish further out and benefit from a longer favorable weather window. It's already been determined that Wednesday will be a no-go, as the forecasted winds on that day have also triggered the opening day protocol. There will be a DFO industry conference call at 7 a.m. on Wednesday to examine the weather forecasted for later in the week. Fishing crews are being asked to be on alert and be ready for the possibility of 24 hours notice for a season opening. Many vessels have already been loaded with traps and gears, while others still require this work to take place. The opening day of the lobster season is considered the most risky day of the entire 6-month season, given that boats are heavily loaded with traps and gear. Aside from the onus put on crews for their own safety, DFO, Coast Guard, and military assets are deployed and tasked at sea and in the air in case of emergency situations or mechanical breakdowns. It's been many years since the season was able to open on the last Monday of November. Last year, the season saw a delay of 2 days. The year before that, it didn't open until December 8th in LFA 34 after a week of prolonged strong winds. Port reps will be examining the pre-season weather protocol when the next LFA 34 DFO Advisory Committee meeting is held. Meanwhile, regardless of when the season opens, it runs to May 31st. This is Tina Camo reporting for SaltWire Network in Yarmouth, Nova Scotia.
One man who is unhoused in Halifax is doing what he can to get into the holiday spirit. He's set up Christmas lights and has 2 small Christmas trees around his tent that he pitched on a University Avenue median. SaltWire's Chris Lambie has his story.
A man from Christmas Island has made his own island of Christmas in the center of a Halifax median. Jesse, who only goes by his first name, has set up a fence of branches around his tent, pitched in the grassy divider on University Avenue, just north of the Victoria building of the QE2 hospital. He regularly tidies up the trash blown around his highly insulated camp, which the 47-year-old has decorated with battery-powered Christmas lights and 2 small trees planted in a pot.
Just trying to keep the Christmas spirit.
He got one of his trees that organizers were handing out at the Parade of Lights last week, and the other one came from an event at the downtown convention center. Jesse's had mixed reactions to his camp.
One guy, he saw me building this fence and he likes what I'm doing. He came over and helped me out. He gave me a financial blessing. He did it twice now. But some people, they drive by giving me crazy looks.
He's got an air mattress and styrofoam with reflective backing lining the inner walls of his tent. He's laid blankets underneath the tarp, covering his tent, and uses candles when he's awake.
I've been sleeping all night with the door open sometimes. So I wake up sweating. I got it winterized. It's really good. But it ain't 20 below yet, but...
Jesse's calling his camping spot his Christmas Island compound.
This is the happiest I've been in years. I've been in the shelter a long time, and you get no privacy, and everyone's always, doing something. There's just nothing there for me.
In Halifax, I'm Chris Lambie for the SaltWire Network.
A 69-year-old man in Chester Basin is bringing a 1929 schooner back to life. Harley Schofield is now the owner of a 39-foot schooner built at the Mason Yard on Big Tancook Island back in the 1920s to hunt swordfish. The schooner was passed around and eventually ended up in Connecticut to eventually be put in the wrecker before Schofield saved the iconic schooner that's one of 3 built before the Second World War. SaltWire's Aaron Beswick has the story of the Airlie.
A piece of this province's history came home last week. The 39-foot Tancook schooner Airlie was found by the Nova Scotia Heritage Schooner Rescue Society in Connecticut, where it was scheduled to be wrecked. Windsor's Harley and Catherine Schofield decided they couldn't let that happen.
She was built in 1929 as a centerboard schooner, which was an old style, to have a centerboard, to fish swordfish. And at that time, they were fishing swordfish off Cape Breton. Then in 1949, the Stanley Mason was the lead builder at the Mason Yard. In 1949, his brother, Howard Mason, he acquired this boat that at that time it was laying on the beach. It was done for. And so he took it and rebuilt it into a yacht. And the Creighton family in Chester acquired her. And Willa Creighton, it was quite rare at that point in time for a female to be a skipper of one of these schooners, because it was sort of an old boys club in a way. And she went on to race this thing to basically fame in Chester and the racing circles around here. And I just got a call to say, could I help in some way, in a financial way? And I said I certainly would. And then I got a call back on Sunday morning saying, well, I guess we won't need anything, because I guess it's going to get cut up because we don't have the people. The deal fell through, basically. And I guess I asked my wife. Anyway, she agreed that we would pack our bags and leave the following day for Connecticut. I want to get a pretty good jump on it. I would like to have it in the water this fall, next fall coming. At least have it in the water. It won't be finished, but at least have it so I can tie it to the dock down there. Yeah.
This is Aaron Beswick reporting for the SaltWire Network.
It's time now for a glimpse of today's Thinking Out Loud with Sheldon McLeod. Today, Sheldon is speaking with Linda Wilson of Shelter, Nova Scotia.
We've looked at models in Denmark and Scandinavian countries where labor unions are actually investing in properties. So are we thinking enough outside the box, or is this problem in this situation so acute that needs to happen, but not right just this moment?
I think we're doing both. The acute problem needs to be dealt with immediately. There should be nobody sleeping outside tonight, and there will be. And so, of course, that's what we're all focused on. I know that other organizations and us to some extent are looking at models in other parts of the country and other parts of the world, and we have been for a while, but none of that has actually been implemented yet. I think that there are organizations that have plans to do things that they're learning from other jurisdictions, and that's very, very important, because obviously if we had the solution here, we wouldn't be living what we're living right now.
And for Sheldon's full conversation, head to the opinion section of SaltWire.com. Time now for the Atlantic Sports Wire, presented by Scott Squires.
The Charlottetown Islanders have 6 Island players on their roster, and joining me is SaltWire's Jason Simmons to talk about that. Jason, do fans of the Islanders talk about the fact that there's so much homegrown talent on the team?
Yes, for sure, Scott. It's been it's definitely a big topic of discussion both around the rink and around the island. You look at the Islanders, six Island players in the lineup this year, by far the most they've ever had, and some real good, nice feel-good stories as well. You look at Kieran Gallant; he's in his 4th year with the team, wearing the captaincy this season. You know, he made the team, after being selected in the 13th round. The Sam Bonus in his 2nd year, a 10th round pick in 2021. Got Isaac Voss on defense, a 14th round pick in 2020, and a guy who probably, in a lot of years may have been good enough to play major junior last season, but with the Islanders having a veteran team, especially a veteran blue line, he was sort of caught in a numbers game and went back to major under 18, had a great year with the Charlottetown Knights. And then you got, Brett Arsenault, who got a handful of games in with the Islanders last season to sort of get his feet wet at this level. Another product of the Knights, along with Jonah Jelly, who came through the Knights program. And, of course, Jacob Squires, sort of one of the veterans on the defense, but a guy who has, got a couple of years experience in the queue with both Rouyn, Noranda, and Cape Breton.
In Halifax, I'm Scott Squires for the Atlantic Sports Wire.
Boss might get a point there.
Thank you, Scott. On to weather now. To see what's coming up in the forecast, we're going to check in now with our weather specialist, Alistair Alders.
Thanks, Kate. Well, it was a nice sunny day here in HRM following the clearing of morning clouds. However, more rain and wind is in the immediate forecast. This evening, though, it will be clear with the temperature near -4, and we wake up near -6. A chilly start on Wednesday morning with sunshine, but as we go throughout the day, increasing clouds, and we warm up to an afternoon temperature near 7 degrees, which could even bump up a bit more into the evening. The cloud cover builds in ahead of a very powerful frontal boundary that will bring rain, at times heavy, along with very gusty southeasterly winds as we go later Wednesday evening into the overnight hours. About 30 to 50 millimeters of rain on the way for Halifax, but given that it's falling over such a small period of time, there is concern for pooling on the roadways and as well for some localized flooding, as I do expect the rain will be very intense. The winds also intense from the southeast, gusting 70 up to 100 kilometers per hour along the frontal boundary. So maybe a few localized power outages, but certainly we're going to be in for a wet and windy night as we go through Wednesday night into Thursday morning. We do see gradual clearing behind this front, which is good news. Winds flip over to the west, but they will still be strong throughout the day on our Thursday. Kate.
Thank you, Alistair. That's all for now. For more extended video and full online articles, stay tuned to SaltWire.com. And you can find us on Instagram and Twitter at SaltWire Today. I'm your host, Kate Walker. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you back here tomorrow.